Okay, the Employee Retention Tax Credit. I've received hundreds of comments asking about this program, and frankly, it is one of the most complicated stimulus programs, probably the most one that I've ever broken down on this channel, the most complicated. I've spent the last 3 or 4 hours really diving into the research on this just so I can understand this at the most granular level and then explain it in the most simple way I possibly can. And so I'm going to try to make this the most comprehensive, simple way to understand the Employee Retention Tax Credit and how it can benefit you even if you receive the Paycheck Protection Program. What are the pros and cons versus the Paycheck Protection Program, and really how great this program can be for anyone who has employees with their business. It's actually really exciting. So originally, the Employee Retention Tax Credit came out under the CARES Act and was a bit limiting in how in which businesses could actually apply for this thing. You had to show more than a 50% reduction in gross sales from quarter to quarter, comparing 2019 to 2020, similar to how you do the comparison for the Paycheck Protection Round 2, but it was 50% reduction in sales, and you couldn't get this as well as the Paycheck Protection Program originally. That has since changed, and it just wasn't quite as welcoming, and it was more complicated than the Paycheck Protection Program. But then under the Consolidated Appropriations Act that got passed in late December, the latest stimulus bill, the $900 billion stimulus bill, there was a many tweaks made to the Employee Retention Tax Credit that made it much more user-friendly, much more open to more businesses, and extended it and made the benefit, the net benefit of this program much higher. So that's what makes me really excited about this program, because it's much more simple, it's more open, and it's more of a benefit this time around. So let's kind of dive into the details here. So like I said, this was passed under the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. The Employee Retention Credit is meant to help businesses offset the financial disruption from the pandemic. And this is for both business. Basically, it's a, hey, thank you for keeping your employees on board if you showed a big reduction in gross revenue or if you had to close completely. Here's a big credit for each employee. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars per employee in potential credits. So the Employee Retention Credit is allowed against an employer's share of Social Security taxes. So you're going to receive a credit based on total gross wages, and that credit will go towards your Social Security tax bill. And likely what would happen is it'll pay off your Social Security tax bill for a quarter, and then you're going to have an excess amount. In that case, that excess amount will be mailed to you in a check. So it's kind of strange how this works. It's not like the PPP where the funds just directly get deposited into your account. So the ERC, the Employee Retention Credit, or it's also referred to as ETRC, is available. So we're going to break this down, because they couldn't have just made it streamlined. It's different for wages paid in 2020 and 2021. But if you didn't apply for this for 2020 and you meet the qualification criteria, you can get this credit retroactively. So make sure you listen to both sections here, because you might be able to qualify for both sections, even if you got the Paycheck Protection loan. That's really exciting. So starting with last year, the ERC is available on qualified wages paid after March 12th, 2020 through and including December 31st, 2020. So that entire period, you can get the first ERC. Employers who qualify, including borrowers who took a loan under initial Paycheck Protection Program funds, the credit can be claimed against 50% of qualified wages, which is just gross wages plus medical expenses. So they added in the medical expenses part for businesses who are closed and they kept their employees and kept paying health insurance benefits. So it's gross wages including health insurance benefits. And the credit can be claimed against 50% of those total wages, up to $10,000 per employee annually, for wages paid between March 13th and December 31st of 2020. So how this works. Let's say you paid an employee $10,000 in that period. You'd be able to receive a $5,000 credit. If you paid that employee $100,000 in that period, you would still receive a $5,000 credit, because it's 50% of total wages plus health insurance benefits up to $10,000 per employee. So it's a $5,000 benefit, maximum benefit per employee in 2020. Okay, so the new law for 2021, this expands the credit. It makes it more beneficial, and this expands the first 2 quarters of 2021. It got extended to the end of quarter 2, 2021, and it allows you to get the credit of 70% of gross wages plus health insurance benefits in the first 2 quarters. Now, there's some other criteria that I'm gonna cover a little bit, but I'm just covering how much you can receive first. So this is now up to $10,000 for each employee. So let's say in the first 2 quarters of 2021, you pay someone $10,000, you'll be able to claim a $7,000 credit. If you pay someone $50,000 in the first 2 quarters of 2021, you'll receive a $7,000 credit, maximum of $7,000 per employee. If you paid someone $5,000 in the first 2 quarters, you would receive a $3,500 benefit. It's 70% of whatever you paid up to $10,000. How they word this is complicated, but that's it. It's more simple than how it's worded in so many of these legislative texts. Now, most employers, including tax-exempt organizations, can receive this credit, but self-employed individuals cannot receive this credit. It's for payroll employees only. Now, qualification for this is determined by 2 factors for eligible employees, and because they couldn't keep it simple, it's different for 2020 and 2021. So for 2020, it's an and/or qualification. First, if the business was fully or partially suspended or debarred from operating because of some order, you are able to qualify. Second, for 2020, if you saw a reduction in gross receipts of 50% or more on a quarter-to-quarter basis, so comparing like quarter 2 2019 to quarter 2 2020, if you saw a 50% reduction, you are eligible for that credit. It's an and/or. So if both, great. If one or the other, great. You can qualify for this credit. And again, if you're watching this and you're like, hey, I think my business applies for 2020, don't worry, you can receive this retroactively as a credit. Now in 2021, it's a little bit more open and accepting. It's the and/or again. So first, if you were mandatory shutdown, you can apply, you can qualify. Second, if you saw a reduction in gross receipts of 20% or more, then you can also apply and receive this credit for any quarters. And that's comparing to, so like we're in the first quarter of 2021 right now. You'd compare Q1 2021 to Q1 2019 before the pandemic. And if you are a new business, you're able to still kind of work out these figures. How you're going to calculate this is you're going to just compare your first quarter of operation. Let's say you started right at the beginning of 2021. You're going to compare those figures to any other quarter to show that reduction in revenue and still be able to receive this credit for your employees. And then finally, the last qualifying criteria for the period of 2020, that credit period, you must have 100 or fewer employees, but then they bump that up for 2021 and you must have 500 or fewer employees in order to receive this credit. Now here's a quote about the ERTC that I thought kind of helps illuminate what exactly is going on. This is from a man named Rick Cox, who is a corporate attorney. He said, while struggling businesses have grappled with the complex qualification and application rules of the Paycheck Protection Program, those businesses should also consider the Employee Retention Credit. In many instances, the ERC would be a better choice, but of course, you can receive both. So why not go ahead and receive both? Now, employers can immediately be reimbursed for this credit by reducing required deposits of payroll taxes. So basically, this goes to pay your Social Security taxes as an employer. And it'll be immediately reimbursed with that. And also you can receive this credit as an advance. So there's kind of a few ways to receive this credit. Let's say you're thinking, oh, hey, I can actually receive the credit for 2020 wages. If your 941 for 2020, your quarter 4 941 has not been completed yet, you'll still be able to edit that, have your payroll processor edit, have your accountant edit it, and receive a credit based on what you're eligible for. If that has already been submitted, you'll be able to amend your 941 if need be. And for wages in 2021 to receive this credit, you have a couple options as well. Either you can wait until the first quarter is completed and on your 941, receive the portion of the credit. Let's say you're going to receive a $10,000 credit and your Social Security tax bill for the first quarter is $5,000. So immediately $5,000 goes to that. And then the other $5,000 will be sent to you as a check, as a refund credit. Or if you don't want to wait, then you can file a Form 7200 in order to receive the credit in advance of your 941 filings. Now, a couple things just with the Form 7200, your payroll processor or your accountant should be able to help with this, but a few common issues with this. First is missing or inaccurate employer identification number. It has to be exact. That's pretty self-explanatory. You have to check only one box for the applicable calendar quarter, only one box. Check only one box for Part 1, Line A. Make sure to complete Part 1, Line B, and complete Part 2, Lines 1 through 8 using actual dollar amounts. And then just make sure that all the math is correct, because what you don't want to submit this form and then just have it kicked back and have to wait for all the processing and things like that. Now, before we finish up, let me just do a quick example of potential credits you could receive under this. So starting with the 2020 credits. So let's say you were either forced to close or you saw that reduction of 50% or more in gross receipts from a quarter-to-quarter basis. This was a good example I saw from Investopedia. Their example is $4,800 in wages. The employer side of FICA taxes is $376.20. So total regular payroll for that quarter would be $5,167.20. Now your credit for that, which is 50% of the gross wages, the $4,800, is $2,400. And that would lower your total payroll amount to $2,767. And then doing this quickly for 2021, same wages, let's say $4,800 in wages. Your FICA taxes again are $376.20. Your regular payroll again would be $5,167.20. Your credit though, because it's 70% of gross wages up to $10,000, in this case is $3,617.04. So your new payroll is substantially decreased to $2,767.20. So in summary, with this program, with the help of a payroll processor and accountant, this should be very simple to fill out. Basically, if you hit the criteria, you might as well submit the form to receive this credit, and you can potentially receive thousands from this program. So I hope this has helped you kind of piece together what exactly this program is and makes it a little bit less scary to go ahead and ask your payroll processor or your accountant to get these forms started and get the credit. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.